talk to me. All right, let's getting back into Shahia. Yay. Okay. So just
the question is.
All right. So again, all right. So again, just understand factually. All right. The issue we're dealing with is Shahia. Guys, heating up food Erev Shabbos. All right. And before we jump into the Ran, the facts is that all you have to know factually is that the oven we're dealing with in this case is not katams, right, or garf. Meaning it's not. You didn't do katima to the oven. Meaning that when you put the ashes over the coals. Okay. So now it's a regular oven that's burning at full blast. Now, what does the guy want to do? He wants to cook his food for Erev Shabbos, and we know at the minimal stake the food can be put on that oven before Shabbos is what? Machal ben Drusai, which means minimal edibility, 1/3 cooked. I don't know, but that's what halacha says, 1/3 cooked. So when the Dapei Arif in my Gemara, it's Mem Zayin Amud Aleph, the Ran starts with Nimsu Kan. So what does it say? Nimsu Kan Shlosha Deos. Go.
L'Rabbeinu Haigam Kol Shinis Bashel Machal ben Drusai Mutar.
Okay, stop. So what does Rav Hai hold?
That it's mutter, Shahia
is heating up food on Erev Shabbos. Write that down. Yeah, make sure you know that. Heating up food on Erev Shabbos, okay? Okay. Heating up food on Erev Shabbos, right? What does Rav Hai hold? He adds in something that you'll never see from Hanania, which is the end part. Even if it is... Okay, so what is... Rav Hai is very simple. Meaning, Rav Hai has no idea of Mitzamek v'Yafala, right? There is no Mitzamek v'Yafala or Ralo in Rav Hai's world. There's simply Machal ben Drusai. Once it hits that point of edibility, it's irrelevant whatever happens to the food after that point, because once it's edible, it's edible. So within Hanania's position, right, he's just simply adding this one extra point. Yeah. Who is who, by the way?
The Rif.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so 1 second. So what does he hold? The Rif holds... remember, in a no-katam oven, an open oven, it's only mutter to put the food on.
Only if it's going to get worse.
Right. Okay, and now, because you have no chashash of what?
You're not going to want something.
Right. The guy's not going to stoke the coals as a rollo. Okay, so these two are the very easy positions. Position A is there's no idea of...
If that was true, why would you ever put it? Why would you ever have borrowed?
Because to get the bomb more. Get the bomb more. What?
Just don't ruin it.
I think the bomb more.
Never do what?
If you would never... There's no chashash, you would stoke it because you don't want the effect.
Well, let's say a guy...
Chazara, a thing that by definition any amount of food...
You mean, why would a guy put a charged steak on there? Well, okay, so you got to be careful.
No, I'm saying by the very token you said you wouldn't stoke, you also would never do chazara. And you would never...
But let's say, you're right, so you're obviously talking about a situation where 99.9% that we're only talking about
Wait,
Shahir.
so chazara is bad?
I had a charged steak already.
Is chazara
What?
bad?
No, keep it warm, whatever. What? So the Rif and the Rav Hai are easy. In fact, why don't we could just define them now and before we get to the Baal Mor. You don't even need to do the Baal Mor yet. Okay? What's the machlokas? I mean, this is all based on stuff we said already.
You look at the actual food or your view of the food, how the person would look at the food.
Okay, except for one. You're right. Except for one thing. Right? There's one thing we have to be aware of. Okay. Okay. Remember, according to the Rif, let's go back to our. Let's keep in mind. Okay. What's taking place here? You have Machal ben Drusai, 2 kol tzorcho. Everyone agrees with this, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Mitzamek v'Yafalo. Okay? Okay, now, from Machal ben Drusai to Mitzamek, from Machal ben Drusai through kol tzorcho, is that a Yafalo?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, what about after kol tzorcho, according to the Rif?
You're allowed to do it.
Oh, a second, really?
Yeah, no.
Whoa. Yes, according to the Rif. After kol tzorcho, according to the Rif.
No. Oh, it's still the same thing.
What?
What's called tzorcho?
It's still
Okay, 1 second. Hey, let's take a step back. Hold on, take a step back. Okay, there's 1/3 cooked, which is minimal edible, and then there's fully cooked.
What is fully cooked?
So okay,
afterwards is worse.
The only
no, not necessarily.
No, not necessarily, because you can
It's
say,
like the ideal cooking.
but via the food, because you exit the food arena and you enter into the way the Gabra relates to it arena. Okay.
I don't.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example.
That means people agree this is the pristine state.
I'll give you an example. Let's take steak. Just be quiet. Let's use a steak. Okay. So let's. It's not the perfect example. Let's use a steak. Listen, a steak at 1/3 cooked, we'll call that rare. Okay, at the rarest point, that steak is considered machal ben drusai. But what's the normal fully cooked state of a steak? Fully cooked state of a steak, medium. Okay, everyone would agree that medium is the normative way a steak is eaten.
Is it?
Yes, for now.
Is that what we're saying?
Even that's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. Okay.
Is that what we're saying?
No, but we're saying that for now to make it easier. All right. I can use chicken is a better example, but I don't have as distinct stages.
The normative way is eating meat.
I think it's called medium because it's a normative.
Right, which is fine. Okay. Now, after that point in time, okay. Let's say, guys, after it's called sorko, what kicks in after called sorko? Once it's medium, what kicks in?
Yafaralo.
Yafalo rolo, right? Because you have to agree that insofar as the food is concerned, right, it's what? It's fully edible.
Yeah.
But now the question is, he wants it well done. So well done, you wouldn't say, well, I'm not saying steak has to be an example, but just think of it in terms of the steak. You wouldn't say as far as the meat is concerned, the meat itself, that there's an improvement taking place. Once it's from medium to well done, it's in his framework that there's an improvement. Okay? So according to the Rif, the Rif would agree. The Rif would agree with what? He'd say that from Malcha B'Jersai until when?
All the way through.
Past this.
Right, all the way.
Past this. It's why?
Why would he know that?
Yeah, well,
it doesn't matter about the food. We're not looking at food. We're looking at how you view the food.
We're not. Well, let's say, but he agrees with one thing though. Really?
It has to be machal ben drusai, of course.
Oh, what? One second. But let's say. Whoa. Let's say according to the Rif. The Rif, according to your logic, the Rif could say, oh, even if it was raw. Let's say it was midstomach rolo in his framework. Why?
Factually, it's impossible. Halachically, it's impossible that it's better. It's not. We don't view it. If this guy's not normal, it feels.
So it has to be a food. It's not a food lifnei.
Well. In other words, how does he hold? What does he? You say that you're going to modify one thing just to answer. I'm not saying it's not a real question. It's just that I want to get this a little more precise. In other words, Rafai is very simple. Rafai, you're right insofar as you take into account the perspective of the Gavra. I agree with that, right? But you got to go a little further. What does Rafai hold? Right? Rafai is easy. Rafai is going to hold. He's going to hold what? What you saying before?
You look at the food.
You look at the food, right? So it goes by by the mavashal, by the tafshil. All right. So all you do is you value the tafshil. Once the tafshil is edible, so there is no idea of improvement anymore, right? Because now the tafshil itself is defined as being edible. So what's there's no yafalo? Well, who cares? And the point is, at that point in time, it's defined as a cooked food, and that fits in line with Chananya. Okay. So what's the Rif saying? So yes, Mati's right. It definitely goes by the perspective of the Gabra. Okay, but I think he says a little more than that. What makes improving different than what's unique about improving the food?
Subjective.
But I would argue for now that from here to here is objective improvement. Okay, whereas Yothalo is from here on is subjective improvement. Okay. For now.
Why are you saying that?
Because I think that the Rif would agree.
Generally accepted?
Well, you'll see, because where the Balmor argues in this. The Rif would agree. Okay, I'm cheating from the Balmor, but the Rif would agree that if a Machal is trying to put Tzoroko, right, there is no Rollo at that point.
Okay.
There's no idea of Rollo. This is always considered.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But not Yafalo, meaning the way the God relates to it.
Fine, so far.
Right, but what do you see? You see that there's an objective improvement and there's a subjective improvement, right? But together, what does that give us? There's one what? Improvement, right? Because what is it about? What's bothering the Rif? That's what I'm going to get into. What's really bothering him? See, the Rafai is very nice because Rafai fixes the food. He says if you look at the food itself at this state, that's what it is. Okay, but if you look at it from the perspective of the Gavra and the Gavra's framework,
what is a Gavra?
From a person's framework. Yeah. Is it serious? So what is the Rif holding? Again, what is he holding?
Look at the guy, how you view it.
Right, but the thing is, I would say is that because what does improvement mean? In other words, improvement, the fact that the food, if you put in the framework of the Gabra, Dylan, shut up. You put in the framework of the Gabra, right, and you're saying that he relates to it as an improvement, there's one thing that's unique about improvement that's different than what Rafai is saying. Rafai is fixing it. He's saying that you look at the food itself. They say at this point in time, the food, if you go by the food, once it's defined as Machal ben Drusai, that's it. It's like there's a state of the food, right? But what is he saying? What's the food constantly doing? It's improving. In other words, it's always improving, and improvement's a process. So that's why he would never distinguish between Mistamak v'Yafalo and Machal ben Drusai Kol Tzoroko. He's saying that as long as the food is subject to improvement, right? And since improvement is just a normative process, there's no point in time of improvement. Improvement means that as long as it's on the fire, it's getting better and better and better. I'm better.
What?
That's your exact point where
No, it's the riff.
Right? So
That's the riff. That's why it's a problem.
Then ask your earlier question.
Yeah, what's my earlier question? But what's the chashash here? Don't lose sight of it. What's the chashash? Stoking, right? So when's the guy going to stoke it? Remember, he's going to stoke it. Why? Because from as long as it's still improving, right? As long as that process is ongoing, there's a concern it's going to stoke the coals, right? Whereas Rav Hai goes and says, no. Once the food is defined as being cooked, there's no chashash anymore. Okay, that's the setup for the Balmor. Clear?
But the Balmor
thing. We're trying to back me up on this, but there is no idea of
How did you argue with their pie?
What?
What's your argument with their pie?
Oh, so no. The question is, what do you look at? Do you go by the food or by the gavra? But you can't say you go by the gavra.
The riff also holds to go by the food between Nachum and Josiah and Kol Tzarka.
That's the riff. Rav Hai doesn't hold. Oh no. That's what I'm trying to say. He doesn't go by the food. He's saying that in the way I relate to it.
It's objective human relation.
Exactly. It's always through the gavra's lens. But the question is, even though they're two separate types of improvements, ultimately he's relating to that improvement. Okay.
if there's a chashash.
Go back to what we originally said. That's why I remember I told you guys you always need like a working svara. So that makes a lot of sense what we said by Rabbanan. And the general idea, which is that even though strictly halakhically speaking, right, the cooking process has stopped when it's machal ben jusai because it's edible, right? But it has all the trappings of cooking, right? And you're right. In other words, as long as the food is improving, as long as that process is ongoing, so you're right, a guy normally would relate to it. But you have to understand, Rav Hai is not crazy. He's saying that once it's considered cooked, so how could it be subject to improvement? The food is cooked. So you can't improve that. Right. Let's do the Balmor.
What did he say?
Ben Drusai.
Ben Smoko Yafilo. Ritarlim Shahozo.
All right, stop. So now we got a big problem here. The Balmor presents a big problem. Because what does he say? He says like this. He says, he gets involved in this process here. Okay, from 1/3 to fully cooked. Okay? Look at his lashon very carefully, the way the Ran presents it. He's saying, when it's from 1/3 cooked to fully cooked, the ain't smuko yafalo mutter. Okay?
What are we doing now?
We're continuing with the last position in the Ran, the Balmor. Okay? So what does the Balmor say? He says, in this point here, okay, and this is a new idea he's presenting. I said before, rightly, that according, this is why I'm saying this way. The Rif, I believe, the Rif would hold that this is always an improvement. But the Balmor says no. The Balmor wants to propose that from here to here, there could be a situation where what? The food's improving, but now this is where John can step in. But I don't like it. Okay?
Didn't we literally just say 4 seconds ago how that's not a possibility? Because you
Right.
said halakha object.
Until we get to the Balmor.
I like this though.
That's why you have to wait. You have to wait.
But you said that it was not possible.
That's
You
the Rif
didn't, like,
holds.
say
According to the Rif.
You didn't-
So the Rif holds.
No, you didn't say like someone else holds. Like,
So according
you
to
made me feel like
according
I'm like
to
totally an idiot.
according to Balmor, well, the Rif would hold the Balmor was an idiot. According to Balmor, there's if I go from here to here, right, and it's not. I don't want it to. I don't think it's an improvement, even though the food's still improving. What's halacha?
Can't do it.
No,
Then you can do it.
I can't do it. It's ain't smuka. It's ain't smuka yafala.
You don't hold this. Okay.
Right. Kol Balmor. So it's not for me. I don't want it. It's not better, right? Where does he get that from? Okay, but yet the food is getting better.
There are mono.
Rabbi, I'm like super confused. Can I have help?
Well, let me just finish presenting the Balmor, and then I'll go back. Okay. All right. 1 second. Hold on. So what's he saying? So step one of the Balmor is from, and this is revolutionary. He's saying from here to here, right? Even though objectively speaking, it's improving, right? But subjectively, I don't think it's an improvement. Then it'll be mutter to place the food. Yeah, it's mutter for me to do shehir. Okay, but keep going.
About Tmuka Yafalo, Kol Shalo, Nishbasho, Kol Tzarko.
Sir. But let's say it is mitzvah yafalo here. So not only is the food objectively improving, but I think it's improving as well. I like it. Then it's usher.
Of course.
Okay. Now what's the hold on? What's the last? That's step 2. Step 3 is. Yeah.
Nishbasho, Kol Tzarko.
So now it's ideally cooked, fully cooked.
Smoko Yafalo, Hakol, Minhag Hamadina.
Right, and just to save time, so he says before, and what's Minhag Medina? So he says.
Can you translate?
I will. Just let me just finish this last point, and I'll go back and repeat it. Okay, he says, Ukanish Basho Kol Tzarchan, or Ella Shet Smukan Yafel Lahen, Ika Manda Amar Mutter. If Ika Manda Amar Aser, right? So he says there's some people who hold that after Kol Tzorcho, but it's still better for him. It's mutter, and other shittas hold it's aser. So you go by Minhag Medina. What was bothering? That's what bothers me. Well, for two things that bother me about the Baal Mor, and I'll repeat it. One is, what kind of position is this? Like, why does he care about? I mean, it's very confusing. He's introducing a subjective element to objective improvement. He's saying if even though the food itself is improving, right? If I don't like that improvement, then it's mutter. But if I like the improvement, meaning if my das is in line with the objective improvement, then it's aser. But after the food's ideally cooked, okay, for some reason, then he hedges his bets. After the food is objectively, ideally edible, but I think it could get better, again, like from medium to well.
Or normatively cooked?
Normally cooked. Yes. Okay? But yet afterwards, right, I say to myself, wow, I really want that steak well done, right? Then he's like, Minhag Medina, there's some shittas hold that be aser and some shittas hold it's mutter. It's such a confusing thing. Like, why would he say that? Yeah. Okay.
No.
Listen, pay attention. I'm going to ask one question, but that question is the. Okay. What in this process here? Okay. I don't want to see the trick question, but what is the essential idea here? Is it the subjective improvement or is it the objective improvement?
Objective.
Both. Subjective.
Well, I don't know anymore.
Subjective.
Both.
Subjective.
Both.
Machloket.
No.
Subjective.
David, you said objective. Why?
I'm pretty sure you said objective before while pointing to it.
Well, no.
Well, this is the objective, but why?
One time, and it's
Objective
objective
the
next time.
Because it's qualitative about the food, regardless. Like even if it were in the forest and there was no one there to see it, it would still be getting better.
Okay, but 1 second. But according to the Baal Mor, even though the food's improving, right? According to the Baal Mor, even though the food's improving, right? What does he say? He says what? He says, yeah, but if I don't like the food getting better, if I don't think the food's getting better, that's mutter. What? Why not? Hold on, why not? You're right, but what? But he's really getting to a more fundamental idea. This is what John was kvetching about before, right? There is some truth to what John is saying, but not in the way John said it. But there is truth to what he's saying.
So someone else would have said it.
It's too dasy, okay? This is all das all the time. What? Right, he doesn't like that. No, say he doesn't. Shh, let me finish.
The riffs is objective.
No, the riff saying goes by the way I relate to the food.
What?
Yes.
The Baal Mor is the one who said what?
So the riff goes back. Guys, the riff says it's based on the Gabris framework. It's the way he relates to the food. Okay, and that's why he's saying as long as there is improvement, it's always going to be a problem. But the Baal Mor doesn't like that. See, the Baal Mor doesn't want das. Okay, the das of the guy, his relationship to it, to be the central feature in determining whether or not you can do whether or not Shemiyachta exists. It's too subjective. Okay, so what's he saying then? What he's saying here is, in my opinion, a very fascinating idea. The objective process is the essential one. Okay, but insofar as what? What? No, that we know already. But insofar as allowing for what? What does the Baal Mor require in order for das to enter into the picture? And it's a little. You may have to think about this. This is a tricky idea. Okay. The Baal Mor wants something in place in order for das to kick in. What? We know what?
A food that's able to be cooked.
Well, that's what he's saying. A food, right? Meaning what? Meaning he's saying like this.
You're watching it.
What?
To like you're paying attention to it in order to take it off because you're going to stop it.
Well, he said this. He's saying that right. He's saying that das, okay, das piggybacks off the idea of the objective improvement. Whereas you need an objective improvement in place. The reality, obviously saying it also nicely, the reality that it is a food, but the food's subject to improvement. But you need a reality of a food in order to even have a discussion about das. You can't, 1 second, you can't have an idea of the way the guy relates to it emerge. There's no subtraction here.
There is.
No, I don't think so. Okay, I will say it. Right. In other words, there's a reality of objective improvement here. That reality is what allows us to use das.
Then how can you say that afterwards?
1 second. So 1 second. Now that's why the afterwards is a suffix. Because what happens afterwards now?
Objectiveness.
Right, so now the question is, so now you have a very good question. Now the question is what?
How does subjectivity play effectively?
Right, in other words, he's saying this. He's saying that, I won't say need. He's saying that in order for us to be clear about das, in order for us to really speak about das in a clear way, we need something for it to piggyback off of. The suffix emerges that if we don't have something to piggyback off of, I'll explain this in a second, But the next move is going to be, if you don't have that which you piggyback off of, what do you do? I'll get to that in a second. But you have to understand this step first. What he's saying is that he's a lot different than the Rif and the Rav Hai. Rav Hai is saying, you just look at the food itself. The Rif is saying, it goes by the way I relate to it. The Balmor says, no. He's a little closer to the Rif, right? But he's saying it can't just be the way you relate to it. You need something in place, some idea of improvement existing already in order for my das to be able to speak on my das.
You might need something.
Oh, no, according to the Balmor, think about it. The Balmor has to say this. Why does the Balmor have to say, we'll get to that. But why does the Balmor have to say this over here? Because if he didn't say that, then he's no different than who?
The Rif.
Right, so I'm showing why he's different. He's saying, not much saying factually why he's different. I'm trying to show you that he's saying you have to have a pre-existing, like Avi was saying, you have to have a pre-existing food in place to have das whatsoever. So now what about after Kol Tzorcho? Hold on. So can show this point clear. Yeah. Right, no, what do you mean? In other words, if you hold it's usher, okay, that means that if you hold it's usher here, right, meaning that it's Yafalo here, he's going to obviously agree it's Yafalo here, right? But the question is, what would this Shita hold here, right, where it's, what? Where it's not Yafalo?
I couldn't ask you.
What do you mean? The Balmor says, here to here, if it's not Yafalo, right, it's Mutter. And even this Shita is going to have to agree with that. That's what's so tricky about this.
What does that mean, though? You don't want it to get to Kol Tzorcho?
Right. I like a better raw. I don't want it to be cold. I don't want it to be medium. I want it raw. That's how I like my steak. Right. So how do you answer that? How do you go from here to saying it's aser? Yeah.
No, that's easy. How do you go to mutter?
Oh, okay, fine. How do you go to mutter? Either way, I don't care. How do you do that? You're going to have to say what I'm saying for this. You're going to have to say that he's saying that there's a pre-existing reality that you're piggybacking off of. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think this is kind of why can't you say that if he's not looking at it as a cooking, if he's not looking as an improvement, then there's no question you're allowed to do it. The question is if he views it as a cooking, and this is factually not a cooking.
When is it not cooking?
After Kol Tzorcho.
Okay, so after Kol Tzorcho is not cooking.
Right.
Okay,
so
but it's still an improvement.
It's an improvement in his framework, but it's factually not.
So therefore what? Therefore it should be?
So I don't know. Is that enough to take it out of his thing?
Well, no. According to what you just said, you have to conclude it's mutter. Why? Because you'd say that I lack the objective.
You don't need an objective.
But you do, according to what I'm saying, you would. That's why you just hold mutter.
I know, but according to what I'm saying, you don't.
According to
hold on.
Which side are you answering?
Everything.
Everything. Okay. So again.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you say?
Oh, okay. Okay, so if he's not viewing this as a cooking, then it doesn't matter what the food is. You're going to be allowed to do it.
If he's not viewing, we're talking about after Kol Tzorcho?
No.
Before Kol Tzorcho.
After Medical Ben yourself.
If he's not viewing it as cooking, what do you mean not viewing it as cooking? It's cooking.
He's not viewing it
as an improvement.
Yeah.
Okay.
The question is, if he is viewing it as improvement, does it need to be factually improving?
Okay.
So if it is factually improving, then obviously. But if it's not factually improving, does the fact that he's viewing it as an improvement?
No. You can't skip that step before explaining the first step you're saying. Because one second. Is this from here to here? Is that an improvement in the food?
Yeah.
It's definitely an improvement. Okay. So what do I care what he thinks?
Because
why would you care?
Saying he's the one who's doing the misa.
Well, I understand, but in other words, if we care, if he's the one doing the misa, then this shouldn't matter. It should be like the riff. It should just be ongoing.
I know because if there's factually an improvement, even if he's not viewing it as it, there's a thought to say that would be us.
But he doesn't say that because he says if I hold, he says the opposite. He says if I don't think it's an improvement, even though the food's improving, it's mutter. So
if you don't think it's improving, but if you do think it's improving, but it's not improving, then maybe he doesn't say anything about that.
That can only exist after Kol Tzorcho. Can exist before Kol Tzorcho. The food's always improving.
Yes.
Now it's only a question of whether I think it's improving or not.
He would hold it's definitely allowed if you're not viewing it as a cooking.
It would definitely be allowed.
If you're not viewing it as a cooking, it's definitely allowed, even if it's factually improving.
Right, correct.
The question
he
is
says
the opposite.
That.
What if you are viewing it as improvement, but the food is factually not improvement?
Meaning after Kol Tzorcho.
Right.
Right. That's exactly the question.
There's
so what's each side? Right. So okay, but we're saying why would you say mutter? Why would you say asa?
You'd say mutter because do you go by him, by how he's viewing it?
Okay.
And therefore.
But he's viewing it as an improvement.
It's not. As an improvement, yeah.
He's viewing it as an improvement.
And therefore it would be usher.
Oh, it'd be usher. So he's viewing it as an improvement.
Yeah.
Okay, versus saying.
It's factually not improvement.
Right. Why? Because it's called sarfa.
Yes.
Okay, but how does that start? Like, so I don't understand like why he has a suffix. Because the way I'm presenting it, I can show you exactly why a suffix would have to emerge. Because what don't you have here anymore?
That's why
Right. There's no objective improvement to speak of. Right?
So what's the suffix?
Oh, so one second. So two possibilities. Either you're going to say that since I know there is no das that can exist after kol tzarcha.
There's no das.
No, it can't. There's no reality of das.
It's actually not perfect.
There's no reality of das.
I mean, there's an end to the food definition.
Right, exactly. Over here, it's over. This over here is pure das without any food to relate to.
Pure speculation. It's like
Right.
Right.
But why would you say it's still usher?
Because there is.
Wait, why would you say it's usher?
Because you can relate
Why
to
would you say it's usher?
Yeah.
Because you're still relating to.
What does that tell us? If it's even afterwards, if you
No,
want to.
and the food process can only begin, it can't end.
Say it again.
Food objectively can begin as food can never end.
Okay, but okay. I'm not disagreeing there, but fit it into what we're saying. You're drifting too far away. Fit into what we're saying. Why would it be usher according to him?
What do you mean? Because there's no kol tzarcha, it doesn't mean anything then.
Well, but why not?
Because clearly, if you want it, it's still edible.
Well, no, the question is, if you're going to hold this usher, looking back at this whole process, what do you now say?
It's still included in the process.
What?
It's still the process continuing.
So you mean even though I don't have the objective cooking food to rely on, since my das to begin with did what?
Continued it.
Well, no. If a guy holds b'stama v'yafalo after kol tzarcha, you can never have a case like this. You never have a case where a guy says eno yafalo and then yafalo.
Right.
That doesn't exist. That won't exist.
I don't know.
I don't think it exists.
Like
Okay?
a raw steak.
But for now, let's assume it doesn't
You can't
exist.
say because ein yafalo means eventually the yafa. So if over there.
Exactly right. So if in the beginning, if using this, the reality of objective cooking, he says that my das is one where it's yafalo.
What about a potato?
Right? So once that exists already, so then there's still a reality to that. There could still be reality because he defined this process as one as b'stama v'yafalo.
Well, it's very similar to the
The food is improving from machal ben shusai, from minimally edible to fully edible. Now, even though the food's improving, he has a funny idea. He says, yeah, but 1 second. The food may be improving, but if I don't like that improvement,
Personally, the yachid doesn't want
right, I can overrule that, so to
You
speak.
could overrule the objectivity and
Correct.
say, this is
Right.
yucky, I don't want it.
Correct. So what I'm saying is that the reason what he's saying, what the Balmor is saying, is that in order for that to work, you can't just have das no matter what I want, right? Das only works, meaning my, I'll put this in an English way, like my thinking of the food improving, right? My taking my thoughts into account can only exist when I already have an objective improvement of food taking place.
So, what you're saying
Is that you can only have my personal attitude or taste insofar as the food is concerned. It's a bad word to use, but anyway, my own personal opinion of the improvement of the food, that can only be taken into account only when you actually have a process of improving food.
Gotcha.
That's the trick. In other words, it's only through the objective improving food that halacha says that now, piggybacking off of that, could there be an idea of my das determining whether the food is improving or not? Okay? So even though my das could be that the food is not improving, in other words, my das could be one of not improving, even though the food itself is actually improving. But that can only work because you have a pre-existing food that's improving. Okay? One's built off the other. But that's why you have a suffix. What about after the food's already fully cooked? What about that? So after the food is fully cooked,
After the food is objectively fully cooked.
Right, now it's only a question of mitzamek v'yafalo, meaning that if I kept it on the grill, I would like it as an improvement, but the food itself is not subject to improvement
Didn't
anymore.
we just say that you would like it as less than that? I'm confused.
No, we're saying that at this point, kol tzarcha means that now it's fully edible. Okay, fully edible. There's no longer, the food itself physically is not improved anymore. It's purely in my framework. I like a well done steak. Medium is kol tzarcha. I like it well done.
But that concept doesn't apply prior to being fully cooked?
Prior to fully
I'm
cooked,
a little confused.
prior to fully cooked, you've got the reality of the objective improvement of the food. Okay,
Right.
and you also have
The subjective.
you have an idea where I can relate to the food in a certain way. I could say that even though it is objectively improving, my das can override that. Because your das can
So you
piggyback.
might like it as not fully cooked. Not objectively fully cooked.
Correct.
That would override the objective.
Correct. Now let's say it's already fully cooked.
Okay.
Now the question is,
Going past that point.
right, we're past that point. Now you see this as suffix, right? Because you could say that without the objective improvement of food in place anymore, das is meaningless. Just because I think it's better, we don't care. We don't care about the individual guy. Or do we say no? Do we say that since he qualified this entire process as one of mitzamek v'yafalo from the beginning, so that could still exist even without the objective improvement, because he qualified it as one of Yafala. Yeah.
Someone gave a why.